Dave Johnson is Executive Vice President of Schneider Electric Secure Power Division. Dave, in your plenary session this morning at Data Center Dynamics 2019, we were talking about energy use and the emissions associated with data centers. Should we be worrying about the emerging edge sector?
I think that's actually the place we should spend more attention. So it's time to think about greening the edge, if you will. And there's a couple of different angles to that. Yeah, we want to start by building, if you say a micro data center, if you imagine that's a typical edge application for IT, we want to make sure we put some of the same attention that we've given to big data centers to micro data centers. So let's think about the equivalent of PUE for micro data centers if we use PUE. Maybe we could still use that term. Let's think about getting the same kind of efficiencies we can with micro data centers as we do with the big data centers. And there's huge gains to be made there, and the good news is we've done it before as an industry, so let's do it again at the edge. Now there's other things I think we need to do. There's technologies that could help. There are, so we have lithium-ion batteries that we're starting to use in big data centers. We should start to think about using them in micro data centers. And then innovative cooling solutions like liquid cooling really could start to help us solve this efficiency equation at the edge.
And what about sort of through the life cycle? Is there help that can be gotten there?
Yeah, I think because you have these scattered assets, you're going to have a difficult time checking on all this stuff and sort of care and feeding for it unless you have the right management tools. So we've talked at this conference and others about our cloud-based management tools, and this is what you want to do when you have this scattered IT. I mean, one other point would be the renewables equation is a little difficult at the edge. So you have to think about if you're dealing with an edge facility that's wholly owned by a company that has a strategy for energy sourcing, you can solve it. But if you have to have little bits and pieces of edge showing up, well, it might be a harder equation for us to solve as an industry, but something we have to pay attention to.
Dave, you mentioned the comparison between, say, the one big 100 megawatt data center and the multiple small edge data centers. How does that work?
Well, if you imagine you had 10,000 micro data centers that were, let's say, 10 kilowatts each. That's 100 megawatts, just that one group of micro data centers. Those are the kinds of numbers we're used to talking about here. If I can take what's the equivalent of the PUE that we apply to big data centers, and I think about applying that to micro data centers, and I take the PUE of the micro data center from, I don't know, 1.6 to 1.2 of all those micro data centers, it's the equivalent of taking 50,000 cars off the road. So if we use some of this thinking, and the good news, we already know how to do this, we've already done it with big data centers, let's apply some of that thinking to edge, and then we can have these kinds of benefits.